As parents, we all want to raise happy, resilient kids, but in today's world, mental health challenges are becoming more common than ever. So, how do you know when your child needs extra support? How do you advocate for them at school, at the doctor's office, or even at home? That's what we're unpacking today with a pediatrician who's been at the forefront of mental health advocacy. Oh, and fun fact, it just so happens to be National Doctors Day, which makes this conversation even more special. Dr. Neela Sethi is more than just a pediatrician. She's also a mom of two, a business owner, a passionate advocate for everything from teen mental health to breastfeeding support. She's here today to help us navigate one of the biggest challenges parents face advocating for their kids' mental health. Dr. Neela, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me and happy National Doctors Day today.
Yes. Well, since today is National Doctors Day, let's start with some quick yes no rapid fire questions just for fun. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. Number one, have you ever had a patient's parent diagnose their child correctly before you did?
Yes.
And how did that go? How was it?
Pediatrics is like we say most mommy instinct is about 90% accurate. And I think if you are receiving the right training, you trust your parents. When they want something or they feel something, I think the best thing to do is to say, okay, well, let's try it. Unless it's very, 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 off, like out in left field. For the most part, I feel like their gut instinct is pretty dead on.
Love that. Number two, do your kids ever try to use medical excuses to get out of school?
Yes. They work me. They know that there are certain things like headache, sore throat, nausea, toothache that are the buzzwords that is gonna get me to stop what I'm doing and look versus just like cold cough congestion is not gonna do it.
It's amazing what they absorb so many different things. You're like, "Wow. Oh my goodness. Well done. Well done."
Right?
Okay, next one. Is parenting harder than medical school?
Yes, so much harder. Oh my gosh, there's no guidebook, rule book, test. I need a professor to give me an in-service on how to deal with teenage emotions. Yes, way harder, way more fulfilling, but way harder for sure.
Next, okay. Have you ever been called mom by a patient on accident?
Yes, I have. And what's funny about that is I have been called mom by a mom and also by a patient. Like, "Mom, mom." Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Dr. Sethi, Dr. Neela.
Is there a parenting tip you give patients that you don't always follow yourself?
Yes, and that is eating fruits and vegetables every single meal. I don't do that, and I'm really trying very hard to, even if it's just adding fruit into my breakfast or putting veggies in my omelet in the morning. I am not always good about that, but I'm really working on it. 2025.
I am the same way. I have such a sweet tooth and it's so hard. I'm like, I love ice cream. And I'm like, okay, is there some sort of like component of protein that I can say, well, I kind of met my protein or my vegetable? Probably not.
We're all doing our best, aren't we?
Yes, that's all we can do. Well, thank you for playing along. Now we're going to get into the real conversation. Let's start with this. What's the biggest mental health challenge you're seeing in kids today, and how early do these issues start?
I would say the biggest issue that I see amongst teens is social media. It's I think probably number 1 on the list of just a heavy duty cause for anxiety and depression in teens, and sadly, it's being introduced at a younger and younger age when it really should be older and older. I would say if there was one thing that I would do right away for parents that are experiencing mental health concerns, it's what I would want to say if I were to write a prescription is DC social media, but I know that that's a hard thing, but it would be decrease the amount of time that your kids spend on social media and delay when they get it. Because once you give it, it's really difficult to take it back. Really think long and hard, especially in that 10, 11, 12, 13. That's a really just sort of difficult time and a critical period for them. And I think the introduction of social media only makes matters worse.
It can be hard, as you mentioned. I mean, in this current climate, everybody has a phone. You see really young kiddos, even 4, 5. And how do you find a way for your kid to feel accepted with the
Mhm.
use of technology, but also, that delay? I love how you said, delay as much as you can. It's hard.
It's really hard, but I ask parents all the time, are you going to be a leader parent or are you going to be a follower parent? And I think that is a kind of existential question. I have always sort of had pride in the fact that I'm a leader parent. And part of it is I'm a leader in the community and I'm going to be a leader parent. And this is my craft and my field and what I wholeheartedly believe in. But it takes one set of parents in the 5th grade to say, "Hey, we're not doing it," for all the other parents to follow along, and we are a very tribal society, and so the more people that you can kind of get to be on your side and the more of a leadership position you take, the better chances that you can kind of delay it and have the whole classroom delay it. This is just gonna be the start of making difficult decisions for your child, and it's as serious of a concern as a seatbelt, and you would never let your child ride in a car without a seatbelt, and it's like taking it to that extreme. You'd never let your child smoke a cigarette, and it's taking mental health and making that a priority and saying, "This is detrimental to my kid's mental health, and I'm gonna take a stance against it."
And when you take a stance, there are many ways that you can do that, whether it's in micro situations. For example, when you go out to eat, my family, we really love books. And so we actually bring books with us versus a tablet, anything else. And how you navigate that, to your point of being a leader in that space, can also help other families think about, oh, well, I could do this instead, and showing those examples, because sometimes we all kind of get into this vacuum where it feels like, oh, this is the only way we can do something.
Absolutely. And what I tell parents of those preteens, I'm like, I am sorry, but this is just the beginning of difficult decisions that you're going to be making for your child. And if nobody had a baby to say that it was going to be easy, this is just one of the many difficult decisions that you're going to be making. And this is one of the very, very important sort of advocating that you're doing for your child. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be well worth it. And we have studies to support that, which we didn't really initially when social media first came out, but we have a lot more studies to support that. And just as we know more, you do better. You do better when you know more.
Yes, and that kind of is a springboard for when I think of how many parents struggle just to get their kids to open up. I would love to hear, what are some of the ways that you have found helpful to start meaningful conversations about mental health?
I think just very early on, destigmatize it and talk about it. Talk about feelings and emotions. As young as like toddler is, how are you feeling? Giving them the emoji list and saying, point to which one you are. Because I think a lot of times in society we label ourselves as happy, sad, mad, and those are just sort of the basic emotions. In reality, yes, we are happy and yes, we're sad and yes, we're mad, but we're also all these other things. And I'll tell a lot of my mothers, think of you. Sometimes you're bored, sometimes you're tired, sometimes you're confused, sometimes you're hungry, sometimes you're ambivalent. And teaching kids at a very young age that we have this broad spectrum of feelings and emotions, and none of them are right or wrong. It's being able to have that mind body connection of saying, my body may be telling me something. What does my mind think? Or my mind is telling me something. What does my body think? And teaching them that connection very early on, it destigmatizes it so that when they get to that 10, 12, 13, where they really pull away, they've already established a baseline of emotions and feelings are welcome in this house. We don't label them. Anything that I'm feeling is not right or wrong. It just is. And the other big thing is you kind of mimicking that and you doing that. You yourself saying, "Hey, I'm stressed today because blank happened at work," or "Hey, I'm having a stomach ache today because I ate blank for lunch," or "Hey, I'm feeling a little nervous about you guys going to school tomorrow. I'm having some Sunday night blues today because I'm worried because I had such a great weekend with you guys and I don't want school to start." Things like that, where you're kind of showing them that emotions are normal, feelings are normal, and they come and they go, and we don't hang on to them too tight, but we also don't suppress them. They're just like clouds. They're just like thoughts. We let them, we honor them, and then we set them free.
What you have said is Extremely important, so much that I wanna double tap on that. I mean, highlighting that we are a mix of emotions, and sometimes they're fleeting. One minute you feel this, one minute you may feel something else, and sometimes you might feel both at the same time. If you can set the precedence for your kiddo to know that that's okay, and, "Hey, I'm feeling that as well," my goodness, what a way to role play or be able to set or create a blueprint for that child to follow. And that also helps you distinguish what is normal stress, what is something that maybe my child needs additional help or professional help. Once you have that foundation, it's helpful. Can you share a little bit about that? I mean, it just leads into this.
It does. It's an important topic of saying, okay, so if we've set the standard at home that we talk about our feelings and emotions, we don't label them, and that we have this mind body connection, then how do we take that information and know when it's worrisome? What I tell parents is anything that lasts too long, your mommy and daddy, like spidey sense, should be alerted, right? Because we know kids have a wide range of emotions and they do fluctuate very quickly. So if you're noticing that they are feeling sad and that is hanging on longer than you would imagine, that's something to jot down and say, huh, he's been, Johnny's been a little bit more down this last couple weeks. I'm going to kind of keep eye on that. Tearful. I've noticed that, Johnny's been crying a lot more and it's difficult to recover from. And when he does recover it, he doesn't seem to recover completely. That's a red flag. Changes in eating is a big thing too. Kids love to eat. That is just a way to their heart. And if you're noticing that it's either one or the other, that the eating is overeating and sneaking and late and early, or if they're not eating, that can be a big concern. And that's a red flag. There's something called anhedonia, and we use that term for non-medical people. It's when you don't have joy in the things that you previously had joy in. When Johnny loved going to soccer practice every single week and all of a sudden he doesn't want to go and that's persistent, that's a red flag. And then changes in sleep too. Kids, for the most part, kids, they really are pretty good sleepers. They may fight going to sleep because they have, fear of missing out, but they are pretty good sleepers. And you can know your kids' sleep patterns. If they're really, really sleeping a lot and you're having a lot of trouble kind of getting them up and out of bed for several days in a row or weeks in a row, or if they're not sleeping and you're going in there and they're up at 2 in the morning, those are changes in their normal behaviors that should alert you like, hey, is this something more? And if that is the case, bring them to a pediatrician, bring them to someone like me, and let's just have the frank conversation. Bring them to a professional because you know what? You're a mom and you're a dad and you're not a professional. And that's honestly what we're trained to do. This is what I do in my clinic is assess whether this is something that needs to be looked into further or if it's something that can be reassured.
And when you identify these issues, which you've given everybody all of these great things like, oh, my kiddo's not doing their normal activity, or maybe they're not asking for their favorite snack. Even something simple as that is a great way to identify something is wrong. And as parents are listening, you've identified that there is something different with my child. What are some ways that they can advocate for their child, whether it's at the doctor's office, whether it's at school or any environment?
First and foremost is giving them love and attention. And it seems so simple, but your power lies within you as a parent. You are the lock to their key. You are that place in their heart that may be empty. Start by leaning in, leaning in. Put your phone down, cancel your date night, say no to girls' night out, and spend time with your child. Try to make it one-on-one time, try to have really good family time, and start bringing up the hard questions. Hey, Johnny, you know what, honey? I've been noticing that you're not finishing your lunch at school. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Do you want a different lunch? And if so, what do you want to go to the store and we can start picking out snacks together? Who are you sitting with at lunch? Have you noticed that you're sitting with different people? And have you noticed that people are treating you differently at school? Let's talk about it. I've noticed that you're having trouble sleeping, honey. Is there something that you can think of in your mind that's making you not want to sleep? And if so, do you want to talk about it? Is there a way I can help you? And then also normalizing it. Oh, I remember when I was 10, I had the hardest time sleeping too. And gosh, you probably get that for me. Normalizing and making them feel like they're part of a tribe and they are like you instead of they're an outcast and they're doing something wrong and something is wrong with them makes a big difference. My long answer to your question is lean in, lean in. You want to lean out because of fear, and you want to lean out because you want to convince yourself nothing's wrong. But don't follow your maternal or paternal instinct. If you fear that there's something wrong, lean in and go and investigate that further so that we have all that data to collect when you do need to see a professional.
Now, after a parent has all of this great data and they've been able to lean in, which I love that concept, and they go to the doctor or they're going to their school and they're trying to advocate for their child, what are maybe one or two tips that they could do to start that conversation? Or if they're facing some resistance, what could they do to really advocate for their child?
You can walk right into the pediatrician's office and say, "Hey, I'm having mental health concerns for my child." Boom. First and foremost, come out the gate with that. I'm worried about anxiety and depression. Boom. Going to school and saying, I'm worried about mental health concerns. I'm having concerns about anxiety and depression, and I'd like to discuss this further. What services do you have to advocate for mental health? You can go to the pediatrician and say, who do you recommend for therapy? Who do you recommend for psychiatry? Can you help me get my child into a therapist? And or can you help my child get into psychiatry? In addition to that, what's your professional opinion? Do you even think that he needs meds or she needs meds? But using the term mental health concerns and just destigmatizing that completely. I have so many in a day: sleep concerns, food concerns, behavioral concerns. And it's beating around the bush instead of saying, hey, doc, I'm worried about depression. I'm worried about anxiety. I'm worried about gender identity. Being open and honest and destigmatizing it for your child and destigmatizing it at the office puts everybody on level playing field. We're looking eye to eye. I can help more when you're being open and honest, and you're going to get quicker results if you say what you're concerned about. And the same holds true in school. When you walk into school and say, hey, I'd like to speak with the school counselor, I'm having mental health concerns for my child. Boom. Everybody's on the same page. And these are the following people that you can see: clean, succinct, and honest and open without the judgment is what's going to get you the quickest results.
Having that language, you've helped so many people because although in our field, we're like, of course you would just do this. But a lot of people, sometimes they don't know. And now they have the language or the understanding of this is a powerful thing that you can do for your kiddos. And starting from the gate, normalizing it is a huge step in the right direction to get your child help.
Yeah, one of the things that I'd like to add here that a partner taught me, my mentor, many years ago, is literally saying to your child, how's your mental health? You're asking about their physical health. Did you brush your teeth? Did you wash your face? Did you use soap under your arms? And I have been doing that with my kids for the last 5 years or so. And it's so helpful to just be like, okay, how's everyone doing? Oh, how's everyone's mental health? I care about you and I love you, and it's not a big deal to talk about. And that sets the stage for them being able to open up to you when things get really difficult. Because you will get an answer at some point that's like, my mental health's not doing that great today. And that's okay, because sometimes our mental health is suffering on a given day, and that's okay.
I think of the normal language is, how was your day? Or what would you like for dinner? Well, instead, inserting, how's your mental health? That should be a part of what I call the playbook of part of those answers, that conversation that you have with your children. So that is like gold. That's a lovely gem for people to hold on to. Here's a reality check. Mental health struggles in kids are more common than most parents realize. According to the National Alliance on Mental Health, 50% of mental health problems develop before age 14 and 75% by their early 20s. It can be tough to know what to do. Dr. Neela, what advice would you give a friend who is navigating advocating for their child's needs?
Don't give up. If you hit a roadblock, pivot. If you feel frustrated, communicate. There is always more that can be done when it comes to mental health. There's not an end all be all the way down to getting admitted if need be. So, what I tell parents is this is a bigger discussion, and we'll have a whole nother podcast episode about mental health advocacy in our country and how difficult it is to access care, especially in children. But that's not for today. But today is, you have to advocate for your child in today's climate. we have resources available. It may not always be somebody that's in network. It may not be someone that's readily available. You may have to understand that it's going to be a telehealth versus an in person. It may be that you're going to have to drive to a city that's outside your comfort zone for your child's mental health. All those things need to be contemplated by you, and you need to swallow that jagged pill because you need to do whatever you can for your kids' mental health. So that's first and foremost. Second of all, is if you're feeling like your provider is not providing you what you need, pivot, find another provider. Advocate for your child, find a different pediatrician, find a different general practitioner, find another person in your group and ask the same question again and say, "Hey, I'm having mental health concerns and I didn't really feel like my needs were being met. What else?" Because there's always more. There are enough therapists out there, we just have to find them. There's enough psychiatrists out there, we might just have to be patient. There's enough online therapy and resources out there for teens, we just have to find them. Your job as a parent is to say it, which is, "I'm never giving up on you." And two, to have your actions line up with that to say, "I'm never giving up on you. And if this doesn't work, we'll try it again with somebody else." And even if you get to the place of, well, they went to therapy and they didn't like it, well, then we'll find another therapist. There's so many options out there, but just sending that signal to your child that you see them, you hear them, and you want to make sure that they are going to be okay and you will move mountains for them, that makes them feel better. Just that helps with their mental health because one, you're destigmatizing it, two, you're showing them unconditional love and support, and three, they're seeing that you are pushing through adversity, and that gives them the messaging that they can do the same.
That was fantastic. You have now given parents 3 things that they can, even more than 3, but 3 takeaways to how they can advocate for their child's health and mental health. And I'm just going to repeat it. First, never give up. 2, take action on that and never give up. And 3, even if you have taken one step and that step was the wrong step, maybe it wasn't the right fit, keep going, keep trying to find someone else. And when you can model that, where your child shows, "I'm not going to give up," that in turn can be an investment in their own health to think of not giving up on themselves. That is a powerful thing. If you made it this far into the episode, I've got a special discount for our listeners from Dr. Neela's medical apparel company, Janu. They are the most amazing and comfortable scrubs, and you can save 20% by using the code Bayo at janu.com. That's JAANUU.com. If you didn't catch it, it will be in our show notes. Right now, I think of parents. There's this level of feeling burnt out in many stages of your life through parenthood. And as you mentioned, it's not easy. It's one of the hardest things I personally have ever had to do, but it's also the most rewarding and the best thing I could have ever done in my life.
Mhm.
And so, my question to you is, when parents are feeling exhausted trying to support their child's emotional well being while managing everything else, what advice do you have for parents to take care of themselves so they can be there for their kids?
Practice what you preach. Rest. Put your phone down. Turn your Instagram off. Turn your Facebook off. Turn your Twitter off. Turn your TikTok off. Go outside. Spend time in nature. Find yourself. Be in touch with your emotions. Journal. Get in touch with your spirituality, whatever that may be. Advocate for yourself. We are so busy and we are so disconnected from our bodies. Our minds are telling us something and we're not sending that message to our body. And then our bodies are sending us all these messages to our mind and our minds aren't processing it. We're behaving in a way that's so disconnected that when our kids are disconnected, we're confused. We've got to be the change. We've got to show them that we don't want to be on their phones because we're not on our phones. And we know that it's bad for them. So we're going to put our phones down. We're going to tell them that they need to eat fruits and vegetables because we're doing that. We're going to tell them that they need rest because we're going to be going to bed. And we're going to tell them that we want to be with our friends and connect with our social network without having our phones in front of us so that they do that and they're connecting with their friends without their phones in front of them. Practice what you preach, but also water your own garden. And it took me a long time to get there, but I will say I advocate for myself. I'm my biggest fan and I'm also my biggest supporter. And when I need rest, I give myself rest. And when I'm ready to go, I go. I make sure that I eat well, rest well, exercise, and spend quality time with individuals that fill me and make my light shine brighter. The only way that that's going to happen for your child is if you're doing that for yourself. And you're going to learn the hard way. If you push, 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 there's going to be a breaking point. And as you and I both know, that generally is when the medical concerns come into play. And we don't want to have to slow down by force. We want to do it because of choice.
And when I think of all of the things that you navigate minute by minute, day by day, and as you mentioned, watering your own garden, how do you set those boundaries? How do you put that forward for parents listening? How can they incorporate the boundaries that you've really been able to put in your life, which, as you mentioned, that helps you be the best person possible for yourself and for your family?
I mean, simply put, saying no. It's been very popularized, but no is a complete sentence, and it is. I said no this year to being the team mom for my daughter's volleyball team. I was like, no, I cannot. I have had several opportunities in the social media world that I have said no to because I just frankly don't have the time for it. And then I'm really mindful about where my energy goes, very mindful. If I miss someone, I will reach out to them and say, "Hey, can we have dinner?" But I don't say yes to every invite and everything because sometimes I'll go to those things and feel more depleted than not. And really, what I needed was just to be with my dog or to be with the kids or to be with my husband, and I took more on than I needed to. So, really advocating for myself and being in my body to say, do I really want to do this? Yes or no? Do I really want to be here? Yes or no? Do I really feel like I'm energetically aligned? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, I do it. And if it's no, it's just a no. And the no is an unapologetic no. It's not a no, it's no. It's the idea that the people that understand your no and support that no are the people you should be surrounded with. And the people that are going to judge you or don't understand your no are not your people. And why do we want to spend our life with people who are misunderstanding us or judging us in some way?
That's beautiful. And that is something that I think a lot of people are afraid to embrace. And like you said, the word no is a complete sentence and honoring how you feel about what you want to do. And it takes me back to the beginning of this conversation where, as we're trying to share with our kiddos, knowing your emotions, knowing what you like, what you don't like, how you're feeling minute by minute, but also honoring it. And then if that honor is saying no, believe it, trust it, and move forward with it. That's powerful. It's something that we all need to incorporate in our lives. And if we do, then we can also help our kiddos. Well, Dr. Neela, you've given us so much practical advice today. And I know our listeners will walk away feeling more confident in supporting their children. Thank you for sharing your expertise and your experience, not only as a doctor, but as a parent, as a woman, as a business owner, all of the elements that make up who you are. I am grateful for your time, your energy that you spent with me today, helping people know more about how to advocate for their families and for themselves. Thank you very much for joining me. I would love to end with, is there something in the end that you want the listeners to leave with?
My take home message would be follow your gut instinct. And it's kind of how we started. So we've come full circle. Maternal and paternal instinct is shockingly accurate. And if you are feeling something in your gut, follow it. Do not let the negative voices in your head win. Do not let the negative people in your life win. Do not let your own self doubt win. Advocate for your child. Teach them that no matter what, you're going to be there for them. Find the right provider that's going to hear you and listen to you and advocate for your child just as you are.
I love that, Dr. Neela. Thank you very much. Did something in this episode click for you? Share it with someone who might need these insights too, because here's the thing, real health advocacy happens beyond clinical walls. It's about understanding our bodies, knowing our resources, and helping each other navigate the healthcare system. You've got this.